I was 26, turning 27. We just written the God's Hate EP, and my best friend Colin, who is the drummer of God's Hate, he kind of writes all the music for God's Hate. He had met a old wrestler through his girlfriend, and he was like, "Hey man, like if you're ever interested in like taking some bumps or like kind of learning a couple things, like let me know." And I know a school that will let me like kind of just come whenever. He's like, "Yeah." So they went and did it, and then I was like, "Dude, how the fuck can I do this? I want to do that shit." Because since I was a child, I would always say that I wanted to be a professional wrestler, but I just never knew the route to take to do that. And then we went to a local show in Bell Gardens, California, which is, again, not the greatest area. But there was a little warehouse where they would have a little local show. And there was about 6 matches, and it was awesome. It was like kind of like going like a punk rock show for a wrestling show. And I signed up for wrestling school the following Monday. So that was kind of my journey into wrestling.
Dude, that's it's interesting you bring that up though too, like not knowing like what's the route to becoming a wrestler. Like you just pointed it out obviously through your story there, but like I've always as a kid wondered that too. I've been like you. I was a wrestling fan from a very early age, probably 3 years. As my earliest memories watching wrestling with my dad and my older brothers, obviously. Yep. Similar to you. Middle school, learned about punk rock, metal, all kind of takes over for a little while. Then the Attitude Era brought me right back in, and then I grew out of it again for a little while. Then now I'm like full-fledged again. I love watching wrestling again with my fucking son. It's like it's that generational thing, right? It just really is. Yep. Like, especially you got to understand too, like even if you weren't in the profession, you had a 3-year-old son, like how cool is it to watch wrestling? It's got to, I mean, actually as I'm saying it, talk to me a little bit about that. You're actually in the industry and your son's growing up watching it. How does that feel for you?
It's awesome. It's like, I get to be kind of my son's hero at times, but it's funny because it's like the first time he actually came to a live wrestling show was when I wrestled Darby Allin the first time, not the coffin match, but the first one.
Okay.
So my daughter and my son both got to come see me live for the first time, and my son is cheering on Darby instead of me. So.
All the kids love Darby. I mean, my son loves Darby too, man. Well, everyone loves Darby. Darby, we love you. We love you. But yeah, Darby is a fan favorite, man, especially amongst the kids. I remember my son watched him against Brian Cage during like years ago, like one of the pay-per-views I was watching with him, and Darby lost to Brian Cage, and my son's teared up and left the room. I was like, this is, and part of me is like, oh, son. And then the other part of me is like, that's awesome. Like that evoked that kind of emotion out of him.
Yeah, but it is like super cool. Like, especially now, like he's starting to really get it. Like he'll come up to me, he's like, "Dad, I want to watch wrestling." I'm like, "Fuck yeah. Like, let's go. But it's funny because I'll be like, he knows the difference between like Dad and Brody King and like, my, Nathan Blavell. It's funny because you'll be like, "Dante, what's Dad's name?" And he'll go, "Nate." And you're like, "What's Dad's other name?" And he'll go, "Brody King." And you're like, he like knows the personas and everything. And it's funny because they were at my parents' house when I had the coffin match, and I was bleeding like fucking crazy.
Yeah, great match.
And thank you. And afterwards, he's like, he comes looking at my head, and I have stitches in my head, and he's just like, "Dad has got boo-boos?" And then I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Darby did that?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's just like, "Huh. Darby put Dada in timeout?" I was just like,
he put you in a timeout.
Yeah, kind of.